me. So it's April 28th. We're going to just tune in for some channeled messages. I am getting my cards out as well, just to see if the tarot has any additional messages for us. How are you, patrons? Patrons get ad-free first access. They do often get the live link, so can join us here live and engage, comment, and such things. It's an exciting week. Traveling to London today to collect a good friend. Hala, hala, hala. Also got in the sea this week. First time surfing in the UK this year, so it's been an exciting weekend. So there is a connection here coming through with regards to our ancestral healing and the ongoing effect of deeper shadow work in the collective. A lot more also with regards to this idea of channeling and our ability to connect to a quantum field of energy. Also, that the reverence or the desire to disconnect from mainstream media platforms, a deeper knowing and recognition of an imbalance or a divide and conquer agenda that's going on behind the scenes, or very obviously perhaps. So we're healing that ancestral trauma. There's, you could see divide and conquer as a fracture of our psycho-spiritual connection, which is often where our pointing fingers, blaming and attacking, which is also obviously loops back to our own connection to source or self. There's something coming through about returning home, and it's sort of a returning home to the heart of humanity, and the heart from within self is that which connects us to the quantum. But the heart obviously is also our connection to the totality of our being and its expression, recognizing that unity that comes from within that connection as well. Quantum shifting and how that looks in our physical reality, as far as, breaking down our past self and how that reverbs into the physical manifest reality, that we can sort of set off in a very high vibratory or exhilarated, ecstatic, earlier on in our awakening journey, or our kind of hero's quest, where we feel very high vibe and connected, and the downloads create actual kind of energetic vibration, right? We really, really feel that high vibratory coming through the body. And the purpose of deeper and deeper shadow work until we loop back into the more grounded and healed state, to then set off, hence waveform. So then we set off yet again on another kind of layer of the quest from a more healed state, so that we can hold those higher vibrations without destabilizing the nervous system. Knowing that there's sort of an infinite thread of information coming through even the social media app. So how our discernment with regards to the information that we ingest on social media is still of utmost importance. If you're here and you're also disconnected from the mainstream media, not watching TV, not watching advertising, not watching any mainstream news sources, and yet discerning still what we're seeing on social medias, which then brings me to the recognition of the phone addictions, or the technological device addictions, and how we're going to be able to temper that through greater cohesion in our communities. So finding and or anchoring in our community endeavors with the people that we love, appreciate, and find union with, so that we're not really on our phones so much. They're not overtaking our mind and our ability to focus from within self, which is really just listening to kind of divine source of energy, which of course is very loving, very neutral, very grounding. Hence, where we recognize that super high vibratory mish, as it were, which, of course, personally, but it resonates to a collective of knowing if the nervous system is getting triggered. And once again, the increasing recognition of the importance of all of us having homes and shelter and access to good food and access to those resources, but not from the old patriarchal structure. Hence the deeper insight to pioneer modalities and or power structures that uphold the whole. These layers are still coming through. It's just that refinement in our alignment to see the vision, again, from within the heart, the collective mind, in pioneering these new grids. But it's sort of it's happening in unison with the whole again. So we all have our individual shadow. We all have our individual learning and integration process through the shadow work to come back into um, a sort of higher functional nervous system. So everything that we're interfacing with, everything that we're learning from is enhancing that sense of knowing. The nervous system connected to the electrical body and connected to the mycelium network of the planet. So it's all at once like a deep connection to the earthly realm and so you think of it in like a computer network with the different kind of connections and electrical connections that move through that grid. But we ourselves are also that way inclined. Our own connections, the way we connect to other people, the way we connect to our reality, and why our connection to Earth and our organic body is so important as we continue to relate to a technological grid. To remember that we are the primary power rather than giving power to external authority and, of course, technology. So, tempering the amount of time that we're using on our phones, increasing our sense of discernment, hence being withdrawn into deeper reflectivity. That's making me think too of some of the blogs that I'm working on right now are a little bit poetic. They're a reflection of the last month or so that I've been in deeper reflection, feeling a bit withdrawn, sleepy, but also acknowledging the body moving through a rather profound reset after my own rather extensive shadow work journey that went deeper and deeper, and then brought back again having a home myself and being able to ground and anchor in a more healed nervous system. I will pull the cards now. So we're looking at moving forward here from a distortion of truth and anchoring in the high priestess energy. So feeling a lot more connected to intuition. Moving forward with that anchor point as well. This is obviously relevant to integrating lessons and learning, and hence often requiring us to claim that sacred space and solitude, and also just recognizing and honoring in reverence the profundity of healing ourselves, and and regardless of wherever we might be on that healed journey, that we're not judging ourselves, that we're all still working with attachments and or addictions. And of course, the more we anchor into compassion, the more we can honor our own expression as as reflections of our own divine truth with our community or tribe or whatever we want to call it, really. See, this is a really positive reward and judgment, and it is very real in real time on the planet, where coming into higher frequencies or coming into a greater freedom from within self is also freeing us from the confines and delusions of that, I want to say technocracy, or this sense of like having to wrap our heads around laws and um, I'm thinking of like the stock market and the economy and the baffle gaff, a lot of those structures inherently designed to, um, again, fracture us from self and prioritize these external modalities rather than the higher level of manifestation, which is really truly anchoring in from the heart and the vision and trusting in that unfolding in the fullness of the body's energetic field. That's the aspect of quantum shifting, right? That we're no longer prioritizing and are giving our power away to economy, government, religious structures, whatever our personal point of attraction would have been when we were born into our constellation or born into our family system. That healing the family system requires us to sort of wipe the slate clean and upgrade our own connection to divine source or divine spark, right? Which is, it's sort of like the divine spark as the Christ itself in connection to the almighty sort of source of the whole. Because we recognize the relinquishing of control, because no individual is actually in control. We're either working from a three-dimensional or, lower base tone density traumatized structure that has lots of attachments to different power and control on the illusory level, as in, to go through a quantum shift, we essentially die to the illusion, rest in peace, and then are open to our own eternal vision for the purpose of our life here. And often that's lots of shadow work with regards to clearing our own personal karma of past life expressions where we might have been tortured, or we might have been killed, or we might have killed, or like so. And because that's part of having compassion, is knowing the polarity swing of how we can express both sides of good and bad and right and wrong and divinity and evil and such things, where we come into that neutrality, and we start to work on a very broad level of owning the totality of our experience to then be sort of relieved of any low level externalized, I want to say sort of demonic forces, or what we might perceive as demonic forces, and reclaim the fullness, right, of our desire. And but the desire isn't a small level greedy desire. The desire is a fullness of a gateway that is in knowing that our desire from the heart is the desire for the whole of a greater good. Good morning, Christopher. Welcome. Happy to see you here live this morning. So, feeling that intuitive guidance, knowing that we're overcoming a lot of the sort of false structures, false powers, whether within self or other. A King of Wands is here. Again, you guys can do what you like with the genders. King of Wands is a fire sign. It's in the reverse. So again, it's healing our paternal lineage or the ancestral lineage, and or just healing the moving forward from the corruption of buying into a false reality, or buying into, um, well, in the days that we're living in now, certainly, but it's been ongoing for millennia, I want to say, but corrupted power sources. So the illusion of power, projecting the idea that we care, this is for the better good, this is when it's not, right? When it's actually extracting and usurping resources and power from the planet, from our own, from our own. It is a beautiful morning, and it's been, a pretty beautiful weekend. Yesterday was absolutely stunning. So having those external PowerPoints that claim to care when there's just an extraction of energy, but I also say energy from regard to our attention, usurping our ability to focus, usurping or directing our attention, whether in divide and conquer, whether in just sort of mindless escapism, which no judgment, it just is what it is. I'm sure we all do it, and certainly with the phones now, but again, discernment and recognizing our nuanced ability in co-creation with other. Moving forward, this is really beautiful, up leveling ourselves and moving forward in our integrity with the people that we care about, with the things that we care about, to not weigh us down too much so that we can let the current move us forward. The positive judgment and the high priestess energy is here, which is like do 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 do, in our balanced state. So this light and dark, B and J might be relevant to some of you with the cross in the heart center, right? In connection to the divinity, but in a protection within our own internalized balanced. There's something about karma coming through. So judgment, positive rewards, the angelic realm singing your praises, as it were. But so that's a discerning point as well, that from within the polarity of different structures or different projections on the planet, I'm often very discerning, even with regards to, so if we give our power to any external structure, usually we're talking about giving our power to a negative entity, something that's deceptive or manipulative, or isn't in the true power grid for up leveling the whole. Being super duper mindful, even with the idea of projecting our power onto even such things as the light or the angelic realms, that we're not getting lost in a disconnection from our planetary earthly expression in the here now. um as in, to give power to, say, the archangels or certain light entity, to disconnect us from the present moment, or from our earthly experience, where that's simply a polarity of so-called, like, giving our power to the archons, or giving our power to a demonic structure, or an evil structure, or an abusive structure, right? We can often seek liberation through externalizing our power to a so-called light, but truly the power is within us, the truth is within us, and that's what we take with us, right? And because our higher self, we can connect to various dimensions, and any of it and all of it can be useful as far as integrating our power, and knowing our own darkness and knowing our own light, but always bringing it back into the feeling and sensing and connecting in, because we're sort of integrating the full, five senses, to then expand our sense of self into these quantum connections, right? So we become the regenesis, we endeavor to feel into our healed state, because that's where we upgrade ourselves, that's how we reprogram our subconscious. It's sort of happening all the time, and yet it requires presence, it requires reflectivity, sometimes journaling, stream writing, right? This recent manifestation, this recent new moon in Taurus, for example, is a very potent and powerful manifestation moon, and reintegrating or coming back into manifesting from a 2 week or even a 6 month timeline, because we'll see the full moon in Taurus on November 5th. And so this can be a really nice time to jot down our desired manifestations, and to spend a bit of time in a kind of meditative state, to feel that reality, to feel into what it's like to have manifest the things that we're in earnest desiring for our personal greater good in a healed state, knowing that that greater good is for the whole. And trusting in the process, that's such a huge part of it, because it's not what we think particularly. It's that feeling sense, and the I guess, like, the commitment and or the practice required to be coming back into that feeling state. Hence, judgment and high priestess. To me, high priestess is very much somebody who is in that connected state, where they're connected to the divine, the self, in the whole of the earthly realm. So many teachings now on the internet, right, where we can, and that's something I'm still working with too, where there's so many beautiful teachers, practitioners, sharing that wisdom, and yet continuing to come back into self, because we are having to, at different points, work it out for ourselves, be guided in our own journey, come back into trust, come back into love. And there's different points along the journey where we're just not going to be resonating with certain teachings anymore. We're not going to resonate with certain tribes anymore, or certain teachers anymore, right? Because the intuition is really a word that expresses our own inner teacher via the divine intelligence of these bodies in relationship to the whole. We're claiming our own high vibrational technology, as it were, which, I can relate technology to a quantum expression. As I was saying, the mycelium and the kind of computer grid, as in just like a tarot is a tool, the computers and the technology are a tool to reflect our own consciousness expansion. And so hence we're claiming our power in our sovereignty and in our autonomy to not be usurped, to not be taken into a kind of these so-called agendas that are they're going to take over the world, or going to try to completely take over the mind of humanity. I'm hearing that word cyborg, where we kind of merge with technology rather than become a more elevated species, where we're using these technologies to heal the planet, or simply regenerate the areas that need regeneration, and move into a higher vibrational system of quantum healing, of sound, vibration, intention. So it's like it's all there for us, it's all here for us. Some of you might get a message from a Queen of Cups, that's a water sign, or be receiving messages. There's a Ten of Pentacles as well coming in. There's something about letting go of, let me pull some more energy there. Letting go of trying to manifest a Ten of Pentacles, because the Ten of Pentacles is here. Hence, there, in many of the teachings, there's a sense of getting out in front of it, that it's our vibration that teaches. It's our vibration that's always manifesting. Hence where we might have to go through some deeper, darker pathways to heal the shadow, which is often unconscious, right? And come back into greater stability to then reframe and relinquish control of the trying to manifest this, that, and the other. Because even trying, there's a bit of a gap between being that expression, being that whole self, being that wealthy self, healthy self, right? The word healthy, wealthy is bringing me into the value system, that we have to trust in the continual wave form awakening structure of more and more of the human consciousness field. People not wanting to be slaves, people waking up, piercing the veil through the light of their awareness to break free from the systems that they've been abiding by, right? It is deep and it is radical and it is very profound. And yet again, a lot of these shifts are written in the stars when you start to get into astrology and such things, right? Just a little bit more clarity on the sun. There's some pretty powerful energies coming in. The next couple of months are really going to offer us an elevatory kind of gateway into greater awareness, into a greater sense of peace, into a greater sense of conscious choice making. That's my tummy. So I do want clarity from the sun reversed, and then that Magician and Ten of Pentacles reversed as well. I'm hearing it is coming in. It's coming in. All the desires are coming in. There's a message here about we need to have the discipline to stop looking for the evidence, as in from our manifestations. There's a deeper integral knowing that it really is, again, truly in the heart and in the feeling, sensing, knowing of the truth of self. Hence the judgment in the High Priestess. So that's the anchor point, is just to know how it works, to know how it feels, to know how it feels to be beyond some of these power structures, false power structures, right? False because they're using deceptive or manipulative tactics to extract, usurp, steal, slightly corrupted, and or you could even say kind of criminal structures that are not upholding an integrity, transparency for the good of all. And that's, when we bridge into unity and love and these things, the reason it becomes part of the integrity is that we are all quantum connected. So there's increasing awareness to suss out that lack of integrity or the lack of transparency. So yeah, we have to stop looking for the evidence and come into the central sun within ourselves. Some of you might get a message or send a message, possibly sending a message to a Queen of Cups energy. It could be regarding a tower moment. It could be regarding something that's crumbling or falling apart as well in a connection. Maybe that we've been denying because we're still obviously ongoing to make changes in our lives, right? Individually and collectively. Something we know that's probably falling apart, not working for us anymore, and that we're going to have to send a message. Or that message comes through to us, and there's something in us that's like, yeah, I kind of knew that wasn't working, whether it's a job, whether it's a connection to another human. And again, recognize deep knowing that these would be connections that wear us down. These would be kind of when we have interactions with people that afterwards we feel really tired, we feel uh, not in sync with those connections any longer. Interesting. So this is like knowing that sense of yes, yes, I want to do that. Yes, I want to go in that direction. No longer just sort of like sitting around and waiting, but again, like knowing the difference. It's just not like going to be hard work that we have to like graft and seed intentions. I mean, we're always seeding intentions, but Knight of Wands, the sense of like, yes, I want to move in that direction, feeling the flow rather than like trying to manifest the Ten of Pentacles, moving towards it and knowing that's the manifestation coming in because it feels that good. It's the spark, right? Feeling that spark of energy. That's another way to kind of look at all of this big changes in the world is that to feel good, we have to be inspired. To be inspired is to really be in spirit, which is in connection to our soul self, the divine spark that lights us up. And it's a very unique and individual and sovereign journey for each and every one of us, which is where be mindful of, people trying to say, like, I know the truth and this is how you have to do exactly. Collectively, I usually get to different points where I can see a reflection of a greater good expression. For example, eating whole food or eating more local food, supporting small business. Looking after our bodies, moving, right? Simple things that are actually really good for us. Yes, connecting to one another, but not out of our integrity or compromising our integrity to serve whomever it might be. We want to be really kind of anchored. That's part of, a regular meditation practice or a regular movement practice, is that it brings us into our body. Going walking, relating to nature, it connects us into our connection to the planet, which is our primary home outside of our own bodies, right? And what a blessing to be graced with the experience to live on this beautiful and abundant planet. The further we remove ourselves from the fearful ideations of the old world or the old paradigm or patriarchy or control structures, when we're clearing and cleaning our own mind and cleaning our shadow from our cellular being, we can start to feel more empowered in truth, in the light of our awareness, and just know the self, know that you're safe, know that you're held. No longer walking in the dark. So for some of us, we really are going to be moving forward with a lot more clarity here, a little bit more inspiration, not trying so hard. Yeah, the sun is really shining for this sense of momentum to move forward. Some of you might be sending a message or something that's like too tiring or it's past its expiration date, whether it's a connection, maybe even just a pattern that's kind of exhausting. Let's just pull a couple more cards. So nurturing ourselves, and I'm sure, oh look, there's the abundance card. Nice. Nurturing ourselves, a series. So that's going to be a continual thing, right? Looking after ourselves, nurturing ourselves, looking after our bodies. Birthing a new vision. And then I will read from the medicine wheel. Hello, Abilesh. That's my cat, the cat that I'm cat sitting, but he's been a regular fixture for he was here November 23 until last November, and then I got him back. Abilesh. I got him back in March, and he's been with me since March, and he's really settled in. And I'm so grateful because he's not been bringing in any creatures. He's not been killing and bringing in the death. So I'm as a compassionate vegan, I'm quite grateful for that. 'Cause, I used to get so sad finding little rodents or birds, you know. I am hearing a song, but I don't really know it well enough, and I have, of course, no idea who it is, but something do. And I'm no profesh singer, so medicine wheel, seeing, understanding, and energy. If the medicine wheel appears reversed, look for serious or long-term imbalances. For example, you may be overusing or overrating your critical or analytical faculties, the north. Or perhaps you are refusing to listen to your heart and feelings, the south. Maybe you have become too materialistic or overburdened with the struggle for survival, the west. And you have forgotten that you are also spirit, the east. In any case, it is important to remember to always look across the wheel at the opposite direction to find qualities you need in order to restore balance. That gave me a sense of also the kind of last few days, and then still now we're in a planetary aspect called a fixed grand cross. We have Lilith up at the early degrees of Scorpio, Pluto at the early degrees of Aquarius. Mars has been at the early degrees of starting to move forward of Leo. And then this recent new moon, we had the moon and the sun conjunct in Taurus at those early degrees. So that is the fixed energy. A fixed grand cross can be quite a powerful tension aspect. But of course, the tension is shifting, right? That's what I'm noticing with astrological alignments, conjunctions. In when planets are transiting, it's the conjunctions that tend to really trigger stuff. That's not true. I mean, the squares, they all do. They all shift things. But I've certainly directly experienced the power of conjunction, and the way that those conjunctions or those transits trigger an inner shift, or certainly like oppositions, squares can be things coming at us sideways, right? Square energy. We don't quite see it coming, but bosh, it hits us. Opposition, push-pull, or confrontation, but we can see it. We can see what that is. So Lilith in Scorpio, depending on where Scorpio is in your chart, for example, is really bringing out maybe some deep, dark, death, rebirth energy, deep, shadowy stuff, possibly taboo, esoteric, sexual in nature, right? But sexual, to me, we have to remember that our sexual energy is a creative life force energy that has been denied through a lot of these archonic control systems. So we remember and come back into that Akashic centeredness from within self, from within the planet, and knowing that we all have access to our records, as it were, and that through deeper reflection and just living our life experience in ownership, knowing that we are also choosing and creating with divine forces, um, that it's all okay, basically, like that we might have certain urges, that we might have certain impulses, that we can see them for what they are and that we can accept them. Loving and accepting them helps us to integrate them, which means they don't have power over us anymore. We're not acting things out unconsciously. We bring them into the light of our awareness to make them conscious so that they have no power over us, right? And then Mars has a lot to do with our ability to take action. So in opposition to Pluto, there could have been, like, ways that we restrain ourselves or belief systems, as in even in connection to that Lilith and Scorpio. And with the sun and the moon coming in to kind of rebirth us, we're seeing shadowy things, or power dynamics and power struggles and ways that we deny our own power, and then what's holding us back from moving forward in our full power. So really, really powerful fixed grand cross that is sort of ushering us to be reborn, right around this Easter, resurrection time, in a greater collective knowing of the Christ. And even as we see the Pope, I don't know the name necessarily, but Pope Francis, maybe, a leader of the Vatican, which is also a stronghold of corruption and manipulation and repression, right? Repressing the feminine and the divine within every single one of us to usurp the mind and have us be praying to an external God in fear of self. So we're claiming the feminine to be reborn, but on a very global level, where that regenesis is taking place in a greater collective way. So the wave form of the new energy in these higher, more evolved states of beings, as in more of humanity actually embodying the true teachings, versus giving power to a book or giving power to a group of people, certainly giving power to an external deity, rather than recognizing the archetypal energetic truth that it's all within us, that we can all embody different archetypes and deities, right? That's the purpose of the stories, as it were, is just to know that we are those gods and goddesses in different forms when we're expressing ourselves on the planet. We can be the shadowy Lilith, we can be the freedom seeker, right? We can be the Christ, or we can be the control systems wanting to persecute the Christ. So it's like we're all and of course, it's just coming back into a deeper sense of compassion. Compassion is so profound and powerful. And to me, compassion and love, they go hand in hand, and they help us to penetrate through the layers of the shadow that would keep us divided and powerless to the world that we live in. And bearing in mind, that's part of the deeper knowing, is that we remove ourselves from thinking that knowing is something about accumulating knowledge and information. It's only ever here now, and knowing that you are a divine part of the whole. And instead of thinking about the world as this thing out there, your world is right here and now, in the cat and the birds and the trees and the way that we relate to one another, right? My lovers, I think that's it for today. Have a wonderful day. Thanks for being here, Chris. Enjoy the day. And oh yeah, the sun is shining, the sky is clear blue. And nurture the self. I love the fact that the two cards popping out, nurture the self for greater abundance. Jupiter is going to be, there's some more beautiful shifts coming up in May as well, with Saturn moving into Aries. And, ooh, Exmoor, hala hala. Saturn moving into Aries, and I do think Jupiter's moving into Cancer, which will be a really nice shift for all of us. Do you see the kitty? There's Obelish. Obelish, Obelish, Obelish. I just sing his name. It makes me giggle sometimes. Have a wonderful day. Enjoy Exmoor. I hope you see some ponies. I love the wild Exmoor ponies and just the landscape of Exmoor. It's so beautiful to have that at our doorstep, isn't it? Enjoy your day, Chris. Lovely to see you here. I'll speak to you real soon. Take care. Peace out.